Hey folks, my name is Mo Amir and this is VANCOLOUR, British Columbia's bona fide culture and politics TV talk show. Tonight, we're going to explore what protections, if any, you have from overreaching police powers. And we're going to explore this by introducing you to a Metro Vancouver man by the name of Tyler Nielsen. Tyler is an outreach worker in Vancouver's downtown Eastside. He's also a key witness in an RCMP investigation into an incident of police misconduct. Now, over the past 18 months, Tyler has been followed and pulled over by the police 6 times, and none of these 6 police checks resulted in any tickets or charges. Again, remember, Tyler is a key witness in an RCMP probe into police misconduct. In one of the 6 stops, an officer told Tyler that there was a warrant out for his arrest, and this was false. In another stop, police handcuffed Tyler, then let him go without any charges or even an explanation. At what point does this constitute harassment or misconduct? And if you're Tyler, what legal recourse do you actually have? Kyla Lee will be here to give us a legal perspective, but first, our featured guest tonight will walk us through Tyler Nielsen's ongoing troubling experience. A journalist covering housing and city issues for the Tyee. Fun fact, back in October, we moderated a Vancouver mayoral debate together, and in the good cop, bad cop approach, I think she was the bad cop. She is, of course, Jen St. Denis. Jen, so nice to see you.
So nice to see you, Mo.
Please be the good cop in this segment, please.
Okay, I'll try.
You were tough on the crowd last time. I want to talk about Tyler Nielsen. This is a fascinating story. I've kind of given where we are today, but this story really starts in September 2020. So can you let us know how we got here?
Yeah, that's right. So back in September 2020, Tyler Nielsen, who works in the downtown East Side, was actually on his way to work. And he noticed sort of a commotion going on Hastings Street, right outside the Grand Union pub. And what was happening was there was a group of police officers who were sort of interacting with this elderly woman. What they were trying to do, they later told me, was she was apparently intoxicated, and they were trying to put her into the police wagon to transport her home. And this other man had sort of taken issue with that approach, and he was arguing with the police officers quite a bit, and he was asking, why can't you just put her into a cab? Mm-hmm. And so they were arguing back and forth, and at one point, Tyler is taking a video of this entire interaction, and at one point, one of the officers just sort of seems to lose his cool and just shoves the man really, really hard, to the point that this man just completely falls over backwards. You see his legs go up. You actually hear his head hitting the pavement. And I stress that this man wasn't doing anything physically aggressive to the officers. I don't think the video even shows him touching the officers. So Tyler kind of captures this moment back in September 2020.
Right. And originally, when this was submitted as a complaint to the Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner, they said, no, there's nothing really here to investigate. But then this clip that Tyler had filmed was put online, right?
That's
and
right.
It kind of blew up on social media. Media started covering it. And now it is an ongoing RCMP investigation into the VPD?
Yeah, so it actually took about a year for this clip to kind of surface. And what happened was that Tyler's friend, this woman, B. Lee, who often writes on social media about the police and about her concerns with police behavior, she she took the video and she put it up a year later, so in August 2021. And media saw her posts, and it started to be covered by media. And Tyler was interviewed by about 3 different media outlets, including Global News and Vancouver is Awesome, and us, the Tyee. And after that, the Office of Police Complaints Commission Police Complaints Commissioner said, yes, we are actually going to reopen this complaint. They had ruled it unsubstantiated before, but the video made the difference in being able to reopen the complaint.
Right. And so is this when we started, or when Tyler started to experience quote unquote random police stops where they would pull him over for apparently no reason?
Yeah, he says before this wasn't normal for him to be pulled over while he was driving. And he drives quite a bit. He drives as part of his work as an outreach worker in the downtown East Side. So yeah, he says that before this happened, he was not being pulled over very often. He couldn't even really remember the last time. But almost right after all this media coverage happened was the first stop. He didn't record this one and he doesn't really remember the exact date. But after that stop, he has recorded all of the other stops. So we have video recordings of what happened in all of those subsequent stops.
Hi, sir. How you doing?
Good. Why are you guys pulling me over?
You just have your seatbelt on. So that's why we're talking.
I just got into the vehicle.
No, but when you were driving the car back there, you didn't have your seatbelt on.
That's not true because I was filming the whole time.
Hundreds of drivers.
Yeah, but now this is like the 6th time in a span of 4 months, so we're kind of getting a little bit ridiculous.
All right, well, you are free to leave.
Well, I was free to leave before, but what I'm saying is you guys are targeting me outside a health clinic.
And he's not being ticketed or charged with anything. No. It's just constantly the police, and it's not just the VPD, it's other police units as well and departments as well, pulling him over. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So there's been 6 in total. 5 of them have been VPD and 1 has been Surrey RCMP. And usually they're just sort of saying, oh, we're just doing a random check, or we're checking because he drives a moto car share car for work. They're saying, oh, because your license isn't attached to this particular vehicle, we just need to check that you have a license and registration. And then they're kind of sending him on his way.
And you talked to Moto, right? Like, is this actually a problem with rideshare vehicles? So this isn't a thing.
No, it's not a thing. So in one of the interactions, the officer says, oh, you know, it's the Christmas holidays. We get a lot of complaints around this time of year that, you know, people take these cars when they're not supposed to. They leave them unlocked, like you're supposed to fob in, so they forget to fob out. I checked with Moto about all of this, and they said it would actually be really difficult to do what the officer was describing because they have an immobilizer device. So that if someone forgets to fob out, they just immobilize the car. You can't even drive it.
Right.
So Moto kind of said, no, that's not an issue at all.
Pretty flimsy rationale from the police, basically.
And one time they said he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And, you know, people might be wondering, okay, he's driving a Moto car. Like, if he thinks he's being harassed, he's driving a Moto car. So how do they know it's Tyler?
Right.
But the other concerning part about this is that he says that he's actually being surveilled and followed by police before they are pulling him over. So he's saying that he'll notice them following him for several blocks. And that's actually what's allowed him to like start his phone recording and get the entire
Because he can call it. He can see that they're surveilling him. Wow.
In some cases, he's doing his work as an outreach worker, which involves working with very vulnerable people. You know, in some cases, putting a client who's in a wheelchair into his car. And he notices police officers watching him as he's doing this work. And then inevitably he sort of knows like, oh, I'm going to hit record. And yeah, inevitably he gets pulled over.
So I'm listening to this. I'm sure many of the viewers are listening to this and they're going, this has to be police harassment or intimidation, right? How else do you explain these incidents, particularly the 2 stops, one where he was told that there was a warrant out for his arrest, but there wasn't. The police should know that, obviously. And then the second where he was handcuffed, but then not given a reason or explanation as to why, first of all, why he was stopped, and then second, why he was handcuffed. So are we just to assume that this is harassment? I mean, I don't want to say it out loud, but I don't know any other explanation of why this is happening to him.
Well, as a reporter, you know, I can't really make that call. But what I can tell you is that Tyler certainly feels that he's being harassed. And he's being quite vocal, you know, in all of the video, he's being quite vocal to the officers and really arguing with them and saying, you know, please stop doing this to me. I think you're harassing me at this point. And they're really downplaying it because, you know, under the Motor Vehicle Act, they can stop anyone and check for license and registration. Like they don't really need a reason to do that.
Right.
There's been a lot of attention on street checks, which are a bit different, which is when you're walking and a police officer will stop you and just sort of ask to see your license and it's outside of a criminal investigation. There's been a lot of scrutiny on that, but this is more like in a car, you know, the police can really just stop you anytime.
And so that's what I want to get at. Tyler is Indigenous, right?
Yeah, he's Métis.
Right. And so we know that police tend to do disproportionately more street checks when it comes to Black or Indigenous folks than say white folks. And in, I believe, January 2020, the BC-NDP had tried to put in some legislation to prevent this. Clearly, it's not working, or it's not a perfect system. Where are we in terms of this systemic racial angle?
So that January 2020 change was to reduce the number of street checks people are doing. So that's when you're walking. So when you're driving, I mean, I'm someone who doesn't drive a lot. I usually get around the city on like by foot or by bike. And when I see police pulling someone over, I think, great, like that driver was doing something stupid and, you know, maybe putting someone at risk. It's great that police are enforcing our traffic laws. But police can really pull someone over. Like they say, they can just pull someone over to just check their license and registration. So I can lay out all the facts and it kind of looks like police harassment, I think, to a lot of people. Tyler certainly feels as though this is what is happening. But technically they're allowed to do this behavior.
Has Tyler made another complaint? What are his avenues that he's exercised in terms of aside from going to the media.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to talk about what he's doing next. He kind of wants to keep that under wraps. But if people are wondering, like, what could you do in this situation, making a complaint to the Office of Police Complaints Commissioner is kind of your sole avenue of complaint. And a lot of people who make those complaints are kind of not very happy with the process. It can take a long time. You can end up maybe going into some sort of mediation with the police force. It can be a somewhat unsatisfying kind of route for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, Jen, I appreciate your work on this story. I mean, it's an incredible story. There's definitely a lot of questions that need to be answered. Hopefully we get some of those answers, and I'm sure you'll still continue to pursue Tyler's story for the public. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Folks, one of the best journalists that Vancouver has to offer, certainly one of my favorite journalists, and an excellent debate moderator to boot. Find her work online at the Tyee. She is Jen St. Denis. Now, after some business, prominent criminal defense lawyer and my friend Kyla Lee will explain what legal protections we have from apparent police harassment. And can police really falsely tell you that there's a warrant out for your arrest? We'll find out. Kyla's Court with Kyla Lee is up next.